Welcome to Category 1 Planning Grant. This technical assistance recording will assist you in applying for Category 1 ARI State Fiscal Year 18 Planning Grant. The planning grant is for county applicants and may request funds to convene stakeholders, analyze data, and conduct other activities in the design of a local ARI plan to divert nonviolent offenders from prison to community-based supervision and services. Category 1 Grant Range. A county or group of counties may request up to $30,000. Planning grants typically range from $3,500 to $30,000 maximum, with a lifespan of 90 to 180 days. Funding is available for the period of January 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2018. Background for the Adult Redeploy in Illinois, otherwise known as ARI, are, with these underlying principles, part of the Crime Reduction Act. In the Crime Reduction Act, the current criminal justice system states that it is not as effective as it might be, and the current prison population growth is fiscally unsustainable. Being smart on crime involves understanding why people commit crimes and addressing the needs underlying criminal behavior. It is less expensive and more effective to treat nonviolent offenders in their communities and reserve prison space for violent criminals. The goals of ARI are to reduce crime and recidivism in a way that is cost efficient for taxpayers. Also to provide financial incentives to counties or jurisdictional circuits to create effective local level evidence-based practices. The goals of ARI are to reduce crime and recidivism in a way that is cost efficient for taxpayers. Also to provide financial incentives to counties or judicial circuits to create effective local level evidence-based services. Also to encourage the successful local supervision of eligible offenders and their reintegration into the locality. The last goal would be to perform rigorous data collection and analysis to assess the outcomes of the programs. Additionally, the target population for ARI funds can only be used to serve prison-bound individuals whose diversion to community-based programs represent actual and immediate costs avoided by the state, with the goal to ensure that intensive interventions provided with ARI funds were targeted to those higher risk clients who can benefit the most from them and from whom they are most cost effective. The Adult Redeploy Illinois Oversight Board established that at least 80% of those served at each ARI site must score moderate to high risk according to the level of service inventory revised, the LSIR instrument. Cost effectiveness is one of the major goals. ARI funded interventions must represent substantial savings from the cost of incarceration in state prisons. The program requirements for this category must include multidisciplinary planning committee. Each applicant should identify a multidisciplinary planning committee representing the criminal justice spectrum and the community to guide planning. The criminal justice spectrum includes the judiciary, prosecution, defense, and probation. Community includes treatment providers, social services, and businesses. Planning activities. Funds are to be used solely for the purpose of developing a local plan to implement ARI. Uses of planning grant funds may include, but are not limited to, employing an outside facilitator or strategic planning consultant, conducting an outside or in-house data analysis, providing stakeholder training, conducting site visits to observe successful diversion programs, and community resource mapping. The local plan. ARI offers planning grants for jurisdictions to convene stakeholders, review local data, and develop a local plan. To gain commitment and involvement from each of the local stakeholders that influence incarceration decisions, those engaged in planning process must represent the local criminal justice court system, again, the judiciary, prosecution, defense, and probation, and the community, treatment providers, social services, or local businesses. In addition, the local plan must include full descriptions as to the incorporation of the following. Evidence-based practices. The applicant should identify the evidence-based practice being proposed, identify and discuss the evidence that allows the practice is effective, discuss the populations for which the practice has been shown to be effective, and show that it is appropriate for the proposed target population. Community involvement is to support the local goal of successful reintegration of participants into the community. Applicants must include the development of a community involvement piece in their local plan. An example would be the community restorative boards. For an overview of community involvement strategies, we recommend that you see Bridges to Justice, a community engagement tool for adult diversion programs, located in the ARI website. Lastly, the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act and expanded Medicaid allow for unprecedented access to critical substance abuse and behavioral health services for vulnerable populations, including justice-involved people. If awarded, selected sites will be required to utilize the ACA as much as possible, where applicable, using the ARI funds for substance abuse treatment and behavioral services. The award period. The grant awards resulting from this opportunity will have a target period of performance of January 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2018. The program narrative is composed of a program summary, statement of the problem, key partners, goals, objectives, and performance indicators, and project management. The program summary is where you will provide a clear, concise summary of the program that you are proposing, including the problems or needs to be addressed and the outcomes to be gained from this planning grant. The statement of the problem is where you will identify the gaps and problems associated with sending nonviolent offenders to prison. Include resources to supervise and serve them locally. The problem statement should include data to demonstrate the magnitude, frequency, and type of problem you want to address in your planning grant. Description of service area. Please note that multiple jurisdictions can work cooperatively on a proposed program, but must identify one agency to be the applicant. The description of the service area must include a geographic area to be served, provide the population total, be able to distinguish between urban, suburban, and rural characteristics of the area served, and other descriptive information relevant to the statement of need, in this case, your planning grant. You must also be able to identify key partners. Identify how your jurisdiction will engage in a deliberate and inclusive planning process with key stakeholders. You should be able to examine relevant criminal justice data on the characteristics of the offender population. The program strategy. In this section, you will describe how your jurisdiction will utilize the planning grants to convene a planning group comprised of key stakeholders in the criminal justice system, such as judges, prosecutors, public defenders, probation representatives, and service providers. Another part of the program strategy is to describe how project membership of the multidisciplinary team, otherwise known as the MDT, overseeing the planning of the ARI program, will convene and how the planning process will be staffed. The next section is the project implementation. In this section, you should be able to define each step in the planning and operation of the proposed program. You should be able to detail the staff position responsible for each task, as well as include a target date for completion. Goals, objectives, and performance indicators. For this section, complete the chart for the program proposed by filling in the information marked with a blank. In other words, wherever you see a blank, you should include some type of measurable goal for that program, making sure that it is within the scope and goal for the plan. Additional objectives may be added wherever they are deemed appropriate for this program. The budget. One of the other parts of this solicitation is a budget. The budget is made up of two parts: budget detail and budget narrative. The budget detail should be complete. There are several tabs in an Excel spreadsheet. Make sure that you click on each tab and complete what is pertinent to your planning process. As a reminder, all costs should be allowable. Costs should not be supplanting, making sure that they are reasonable, and the budgeted items are cost-effective in relation to the proposed activities. The budget narrative is a section just below each of the tabs. The narrative is complete for all line items, clearly detailing how you arrived at and calculated the budgeted amounts. The narrative describes why each line item is necessary for program implementation. The narrative does not describe supplanting. The notice of intent. Submission of a notice of intent is non-binding and will be used for internal planning processes only. Agencies must have completed the GATA pre-qualification process and received an ICQ approval from a state cognizant agency by the date of application. Upon receipt of notice of intent, ICGIA will offer technical assistance to agencies which have not yet demonstrated GATA compliance. Agencies interested in submitting an application are strongly encouraged to complete an online notice of intent form by 11:59 p.m. on October 16, 2017. Remember, please add your answers, otherwise known as the narrative, under each numbered question. Complete and sign the Uniform State Grant application. This should be submitted as a PDF. The ICQ approval is mandatory. You can see this in the GATA website. All applications will be screened for completeness. Your program narrative should be submitted in Word. Due date. The last day for submission for the planning grant is Monday, October 30th, 2017 by 11:59 p.m. Take time to submit your application early. If you have any questions regarding the content, the webinar, solicitation, and application submissions, you can send an email to cja.ari.sfy18pigrant@illinois.gov. This concludes the technical assistance recording